no, no hints. Alright. So could you tell me the year right now?
The year,
What year is it?
it's 2020.
Very good. And what is the season? What season is it outside?
Right now,
Mhm.
it's winter.
Good. And do you know the month?
The month,
Mm-hmm.
it's February.
Very good. And do you know the date? February what?
February, no, I don't even know that.
Okay. What about the day of the week?
Day of the week, it's Thursday.
Thursday. Very good. Can you tell me the name of this hospital here?
The hospital,
Mm-hmm.
Advocate,
Mm-hmm. Do you know which one?
which one?
Mm-hmm.
Lutheran,
Very good. Yeah. And then what town are we in?
we're in Niles,
No, it's close enough. What about the state?
Illinois,
Very good. And what county is this?
Cook,
Good. And in this building, what floor are we on right now?
5.
5. Very good. Very good. I'm going to tell you 3 words, and I just want you to repeat them for me. Okay, so listen carefully. Apple, penny,
Oops, sorry.
apple, penny, table. Okay, can you repeat those for me?
Apple,
Mm-hmm.
penny, table.
Very good. All right, try to keep those words in your mind. I'm going to ask for them in a few minutes, okay? Now, starting at 100, I want you to count backwards by 7s. Okay, so what is 100 minus 7?
Oh, minus 7?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there'd be math.
100 minus 7
Uh-huh.
is, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just losing it.
Okay, well that was
Right.
hard. All right. Can you spell the word world for me?
World,
World.
W-O-R-L-D.
Good. Now can you spell world backwards?
D,
Mm-hmm.
D, L,
Mm-hmm. Good.
O,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay, that one's hard. It's hard to go backwards. That's a hard one. All right, tell me what this is called.
A pen,
Good. And tell me what this is called.
a key.
Good. Very good. I want you to repeat after me, so listen carefully. No ifs, ands, or buts.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Very good. I want you to take this paper in your right hand, then fold it in half and hand it back to me.
Fold it in half.
Mhm. Very good. Perfect. I want you to read this part here and then do what it says. Very good. Okay, open your eyes. Now on the bottom of the paper, I want you to make up and write a sentence for me about anything you like. You can write about the weather or
Okay.
whatever, as long as it's a full sentence.
Okay.
Good. Okay, and then could you make a copy of this picture?
This one?
Mm-hmm. As best as you can.
Okay. Ugh.
Good. Okay, which line do you not want?
Which one
Mhm.
don't I want?
Mhm.
This one.
Okay, okay. Good. Now, what were those 3 words I had you remember?
Apple,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the other two.
Okay. One, I'll give you a hint. Okay. One of the words was a coin.
Penny,
Very good. And one of the words was a piece of furniture.
chair, no,
Okay, I'll give you 3 choices. Was it a stool, a table, or a desk?
a table.
Very good. See, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay. So really, so in a year and a couple of months, you know, the score changed by 3 points,
The
right?
score is what?
Declined by 3 points, which is what we would expect, right? So despite, you know, the fall and the hematoma and everything else, the hematomas and everything else, you know, not a significant change just on testing compared to where you were in December of 2018. So that's good, right? Tell me, Marv, since you see her the most, what have you noticed change in the last year and a half or so, year and a couple months?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And what kind of things have you noticed?
she's sleeps and
Mm-hmm.
dozes during the day,
Mm-hmm.
and seems to have some periods of some forgetfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to be reminded of
Mm-hmm.
where and what and how.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's happening more frequently over time?
I'd say somewhat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you guys are in independent living, right? So a lot of the kind of daily activities you need to do yourselves, right?
Mhm.
Have you noticed a change, Marv, in Sandra's kind of functional abilities over the last year?
Function as to what?
So I'll give you some examples, right? So, do you guys go shopping together?
Yes,
Does Sandra usually go with you?
yes.
Okay, and then, you know, if you make a list together, can find the things in the store that you need together,
She
right?
probably does better than I do,
Okay.
like the Jewel.
Alright, and then, you know, it's independent living, so I'm sure there's like a housekeeping service, but you have to keep your apartment neat, right?
Mhm.
So, is she doing chores and things like that?
The what?
yeah.
Doing like tidying up the
Oh,
living
definitely,
space?
yeah.
Okay.
Makes the bed every day.
Makes the bed, okay. What about, cooking?
Minimal.
So what kind of cooking do you typically do there? Or what do you have the capability of doing there? Like you have a little kitchenette and things like
We
that?
have a kitchen, but
Mhm.
she has not done cooking in quite some time.
Okay.
Other than breakfast
Okay.
preparation,
Okay.
maybe.
And then, is there like one big meal a day that you can go to in the building?
They have actually 3.
Okay, okay. Do you go to all 3 or do
No.
you typically go to one? Okay,
Go mostly dinner.
okay, mostly dinner, right? Who does the bills, the finances?
Pardon me?
Who does the finances, the
I do.
bills? Okay. Have you always done that or do you take over?
More so recent times.
Recently, okay, alright, probably over the last year. Now Sandra's on a couple of medications. Do you help her with those?
She has a part-time caretaker.
Okay.
Comes in mornings and make sure that she gets her meds.
Mm-hmm,
And one day a week, her son Ken comes on Sunday and does that.
mm-hmm. Like fills up the pillbox
Yeah,
or organizes?
Yes.
Okay, alright. So that's a little change. Any trouble using the telephone?
No,
doesn't everybody?
Okay,
Damn
alright.
cell phones, yeah.
So does she have a cell phone?
Yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
Any trouble dialing the cell phone or answering the cell phone?
no,
Mm-mm.
Her son Ken bought her one of those,
Like the jitterbug or something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, okay.
that's helpful.
Okay, yeah, some of the more complicated phones are complicated, right?
Right,
Any trouble with the landline? Or do you guys have a landline there?
no landline.
But when you call, like if you guys were to call mom, like she'd answer the phone, and any trouble using the phone that you can tell? Okay. Alright. Do you have to do laundry there, or is it done for you?
Do laundry.
You do laundry,
We
okay.
have
And
it in
does,
the apartment.
okay, and does Sandra do the laundry, or do you do the
We
laundry?
both do.
Okay.
And the caretaker.
Mm-hmm,
And the cleaning is every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Every other week.
gotcha. Is Sandra like socializing
Yes.
with other people in the building? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what about, more personal care? So does she pick out all of her own clothes and get dressed every day, or do you help her?
She
I
picks
pick
out
out my own.
as well.
Okay. Oh, sorry, there's like a little, on the bottom right corner, there's a little twisty thing that you
Oh,
can
okay, I
use to
see,
close it,
yeah, 'cause it's in Billy's eyes.
Oh, it's okay.
You sure?
It might be,
This way.
I think it's the middle one actually.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, sorry.
It's actually the other one that's,
Oh, sorry.
but it's not a big deal.
Okay, sorry.
I can reach
I know it's so odd to see sun.
What
I
is
love
this?
Yeah,
it.
right.
It's
Oh, that's
actually
better, that's
really-
better, okay.
I can leave it if you want.
Let's just leave it like that, that's
Okay.
fine.
So able to pick out clothes and get dressed and no trouble there, like putting them on properly.
Yeah.
Do you ever have to remind her like it's time to change clothes?
No.
No, okay. Any trouble in the,
No.
I'm just asking. Any trouble in the bathroom as far as bathing or showering?
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
How so?
I have, the caregiver helps me with that.
Mm-hmm. With the shower, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Kind of gives you some cues and turns the water temperature on
Yeah.
and gets the right temp and everything like that.
Mhm.
Okay.
She's also had physical problem, diarrhea and urinate, wears pants.
Okay. So that's more often now than before,
Yes.
right? So having some difficulty kind of holding the urine, right? So
At night.
At night, okay. Any trouble during the daytime?
I don't think so. No.
Can you get to the bathroom okay usually
Yeah.
during the daytime?
Her other doctor had changed her diet
Mm-hmm.
to put more things in it so that, not the constipator, but the almost constipator, so that,
We're not really doing that.
but, no, we're not now.
Well, what is it?
Well, it's just more starch, not having salads all the time, and not the roughage, and then choosing rice dishes at dinner and things like that.
So it was previously having a little bit more loose stool, and then that was resulting in some.
Well, I think it was more of the sensation of having to go.
Okay.
So if she didn't have to worry about that at night, that's why he wanted it, you know.
Okay.
And then he said if it continued to be a problem, then he could put her on, what was it? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. Well, something to help with the bowels.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it sounds counterintuitive because people use it as a laxative, but if you add Metamucil to your diet, so which is like a bulk forming fiber, it kind of helps if you're having those intermittent either like hard stools or liquid stools or some difficulty, kind of helps make things a little bit more consistent. And it's something safe to take every day that you can add. Some of the bowel medications we don't want you to take every day, like Miralax, but you can take Metamucil every day and it's safe to do. So you can try that too, kind of adding it and seeing if that makes a difference. And it's a benign thing, if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it's just fiber, right?
Metamucil.
Metamucil, yeah, and you just the scoop, like the bulk. So it's different. So the Citracel is a little different. That's like the soluble fiber, but you really want like the bulk forming fiber, like the
The other problem with that was that the caregiver said that she was not properly cleaning up after herself when it would happen at night.
Okay.
She would try, but it wasn't, she wouldn't get completely
everything.
cleaned up, yeah.
And that was after like a stool episode.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. How often does that happen?
How often does it happen, Mom Marv?
What?
That you have stool poop at night.
Incontinence at night.
Yeah,
At night?
yeah, like when, you know.
It happens, you
very
have
rarely.
accidents maybe a couple times in the last month or two.
Okay, alright. Any pain, belly pain or anything like that? No?
No.
Okay, alright, and I think they checked, you know, they wanna check for infection and things like that too. Okay, and then any trouble cutting up food?
No.
No. And then no trouble with your walking and balance, that's okay, even after the hematoma and everything, pretty good, right? Okay. Okay. As far as medications go, let's see. Is Ken the medication guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have a list, or if I read through them, they'll sound right or wrong?
I have a list, but I probably know it.
Okay. She's still taking Norvasc and
You
Lodipine.
got in your purse, honey, if you need an update on your list of meds.
Oh, does she?
She's taking, yes, she is taking are those one and the same?
Amlodipine, yeah, and Norvasc, yeah.
Amlodipine, yes.
Mhm.
5 milligrams. Vitamin C.
Yeah.
Okay. And then takes like a Lumigan eye drop.
Yeah,
Okay. Donepezil or the
Yes.
Taricept.
twice a day,
Twice a day. Okay. And when was that increase to twice a day?
many months ago.
Been a while. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes donepezil can upset the stomach, causing diarrhea. The standard dosing is really once a day. Sometimes we'll increase to twice a day if there's been decline, but 10 milligrams once a day is standard dosing. I think in between now and the last time you were here, it was increased. But what we can try to do is cut it back a little bit and see if that helps a little
Okay.
bit with some of the stool symptoms. There's actually a different medication in addition to the donepezil that I would recommend. And using them together, which is called memantine or Namenda. Does that sound familiar? Ever been on that medicine before?
No.
So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but rather than having the donepezil twice a day, I would cut it down to once a day and then add the memantine. And
okay,
hopefully that'll help a little bit with some of the stool symptoms.
When you're through with the meds, I wanted to add something.
Sure. Okay. Lisinopril 20 milligrams daily.
what she's doing is taking a half,
Oh, a half pill twice
Mm,
daily.
yeah.
Yep, I see that, sorry. Metoprolol 100 milligrams daily.
yeah,
Multivitamin, like a Citracal Plus, something like that.
it's a Citracal, yeah.
Okay. Every 12 hours.
Hmm.
It's like twice
12
a day.
hours? Twice a day?
Mm,
Or
no,
once?
once,
Okay. Pravastatin.
yep,
Okay. 20 milligrams daily. And then salt tabs.
no,
That's
she's
fine.
taking, well, I'll wait till you're done, to fill in what's missing,
Okay, Timolol.
Yeah.
Eye drop. Okay. All right. And what was the missing one? Sorry.
well, she's taking, there was some hesitation after the fall to put her back on a blood thinner.
Mm-hmm.
So she's taking a baby aspirin every other day,
Okay.
and with that, we take like a Pepsid, in case there's any stomach issues.
Mm-hmm.
She's had an ulcer in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Got that from you, Mom, thanks.
What?
I had an
Oh.
ulcer too.
You do?
Every other day. Okay, baby aspirin every other day. And then she takes the baby aspirin in conjunction with the Pepsid.
Yes,
So that's famotidine. So every other day. And she's no longer taking the Plavix, right? That would stop the clopidogrel.
right,
Let's see. She doesn't take amiodarone for the AFib. These are just past medications.
Right,
So
no.
now that we're on Epic, it just kind of pulls in everything that she's ever taken.
no, she's not taking that,
Doesn't take a separate vitamin D3.
no,
This is done. Good, thank you. All right, Marv, you wanted to add something else?
You asked about socializing.
Mm-hmm.
Her personality and character have always been kind of laid back,
Mm-hmm.
but she's become more introspective and quieter,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which apparently you anticipate because you're shaking your head up and down.
Right. So and so in general, you know, when people have memory loss and dementia for whatever reason, whatever the underlying cause is, you know, 90% of people will have some change in behavior over the course of their dementia. The earliest and most common change is what we call apathy or inertia. So kind of that lack of motivation to go do things that things that you may previously have enjoyed. And it sounds like Sandra was kind of always a little bit kind of more introspective, but now even more so. So we kind of expect that a little bit. And that's often a really hard thing to treat because it can be kind of misconstrued with depression a lot of the time. Because, you know, when somebody's kind of like less engaged, you know, the thought is, well, maybe Sandra's depressed, so we try to treat it like depression, and sometimes that helps a little bit, but a lot of times, you know, it really doesn't because it's a separate thing. You know, it's related to the dementia rather than, you know, pure mood. So it's hard, but we try to kind of get around that by really structuring activity throughout the day. Because if you ask Sandra, or if you wait until Sandra says, you know, I really want to go and play cards, you'll probably be waiting for a long time. But if you kind of set up those, you know, that structure for her, it helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's in the throes of a speech therapist coming
Okay.
every twice a week
Okay.
that I arranged for about 3 weeks ago. And I think she'll have 10 or 12 sessions.
Great.
That gives her different puzzles and questions and tests her as you did with your testing.
How do you like it so far?
I like it.
Yeah, it's a little challenging, right? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Good. All right. And then I know, you know, you live in an independent living community, so there's lots of activities and stuff available to you. The important thing is, you know, just kind of taking advantage of those and participating in as much as you can.
Okay.
Right. And it's hard because, you know, you have to kind of get over that little hump of apathy. But, you know, it's really helpful for kind of overall brain health, right?
Okay.
And sometimes when people have some of the continence issues that you were describing, it can make people a little wary to go out and want to do things because they're kind of worried about having an accident or something like that too.
And can't the memory just being uncomfortable, not thinking you can answer questions correctly?
Absolutely. And when people are having word finding trouble, like coming up with the right word or worried that they're, you know, that they're going to struggle over a word, it can can cause a lot of self-consciousness for people, even if Sandra might not really be aware of it, but kind of tends to make people kind of close up a little bit in public, right?
Oh.
That's pretty normal.
The speech lady's name is Amy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That, you said she has 10 or 12 sessions with that?
Total, Amy, I think, said giving her 10 or 12, yeah.
And
But
that was-
Medicare pays for it.
Okay, and that was ordered by a different doctor though, right? It was Lazar.
By Dr. Lazar.
So if that's helping, can the neurologist order that as well, or does it have to be ordered?
So the way that that speech therapy for Medicare works, it kind of works, I think speech therapy and like physical therapy or OT are like in the same bucket. So you get X amount of visits like in a 12-month period. So you can't have like 2 co-occurring speech therapy orders, but as long as you haven't gotten like your, you know, however many visits per year, you know, you can continue. But see what the speech therapist says, because I usually recommend, you know, a certain number of sessions, whether it's 6 or 10, because people tend to, you know, do well with that number. And then if we need to repeat it again, you know, we can.
Well, I know this is probably a question for her, but
Mhm.
what if it was extended out by just doing it once a week instead of twice a week?
And sometimes that's helpful too, because if, you know, we've had people go like 3 days a week, and then in like 2 weeks, all their speech therapy is gone. But if you do it maybe like once a week for one session, and then you spread that out over, you know, several weeks, sometimes you can get a little bit more out of it.
Okay,
It
I'll
just
ask
depends
her.
too on how, on how Sandra's progressing and if she's able to retain that information from week to week, which is why sometimes they'll do it twice in a week because it's
Yeah.
hard to retain it in like 7 days versus like 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Maybe we
some
could try.
homework exercises.
Right, and they'll give you, and she'll give you lots of homework, right? And then the
Yeah.
important thing too is to work, she'll give you exercises to do and then, with the expectation that you'll continue to do those on your own afterward. So, Mark can work with you and continue to do the exercises with you after Amy's done,
Okay.
right? Okay. Let's see. In general, how is mood?
My mood? It's pretty good, except, as I say, I'm upset about the fact that I can't drive anymore.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know.
And a little bit more introspective, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else notice any mood changes, or is that about kind of what you guys have noticed?
What's the question?
Mood changes?
She's always happy to see me because anybody would be happy to see me.
Right.
We all are.
Sleeping okay at night, Sandra?
Yes,
Okay, no insomnia?
no,
Okay. Appetite? How's appetite?
it's good.
Good, okay. Let's see
She's
your weight.
beloved by all at the Carrington.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
I am?
That's
I
good
don't
to know.
know.
Alright, weight's good. You haven't lost weight, so that's important. And are you having any pain anywhere?
No,
Okay. Does Sandra wear a medical ID?
Yes.
Okay. And then in the bathroom, there's a bar, right, or a seat because it's an independent
Pull
living,
chain.
right? Pull chain, good.
Yeah.
And then you have power of attorney for healthcare.
Me.
Good, perfect. Since the falls in May and with the hematoma, any recurrent falls since then? Okay.
no.
Okay, good. And very good. Okay. All right, so Sandra, let me take a look at you. I want to walk you around,
Oh.
especially, the bleeding that she experienced on the brain after the falls was not insignificant, right? So we kind of expect, a little bit of change over time. I think that the cognitive changes that we've noticed definitely aren't, we would expect maybe even more of a cognitive decline over time because of the falls, but it seems like things have kind of stabilized a little bit, right?
Excuse me, is there a bathroom near?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. All right, fold up your arms, Sandra, and stand.
Oops.
All right, good. Okay, so when you, Mark, if you go straight, when you get to the little short hallway here, make a right, it's on the right-hand side.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
oh, I'm gonna take you on the hallway, you can leave it open. Okay. All right, come on with me, you can let your arms go. Yeah, good, all right, come on out. All right, turn to the right for me and just